Hello, SpongicX here. I just saw The Bad Guys. Dreamworks just released a new movie, The Bad Guys, and all I knew was that this movie was announced quite a bit ago, and people were hyped for it. People were praising it for its animation. This is definitely one of the more stylistic movies to come from Dreamworks in recent years. In a way, like a lot of people were comparing it to Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, because it's like a CG movie, but it has a lot of influence on traditional animation. And yeah, overall, I really like the style of this movie. I mean, it's a rare case where it's a movie with anthropomorphic animals living with humans. Usually it's one or the other with these DreamWorks movies. And it works pretty well, honestly. I went into this, at first I was thinking, okay, this is going to be a very cliche movie. And in the end, I thought it was pretty good. It definitely has a lot of cliches, some annoying ones too, but in the end, it was still worth watching. I still had fun with it. Would I call it DreamWorks' best movie, though? Probably not, but would I call it their worst? Heck no. So I gotta give it to DreamWorks. It's nice to see them make a good movie again, because I've been avoiding DreamWorks for so long. The last good movie I saw from them was How to Train Your Dragon 3, but I'm not a fan of what they've become. I loved DreamWorks back then when they made movies that had, they were for family audiences, but they had a bit of an adult edge to it. Movies like The Prince of Egypt, Road to El Dorado, Shrek, and then, you could say the sequels kind of made them a little more childish, but going back to the first Shrek movie, that was good. The Kung Fu Panda trilogy, the How to Train Your Dragon trilogy, I love those movies, but ever since Trolls, Boss Baby, Abominable, I've been avoiding them, and usually I look up some video reviewers I follow on YouTube, and I hear what they have to say, and a lot of them say yeah, those movies were not worth checking out. And so The Bad Guys, for some reason, this was the first DreamWorks movie in years where I see the trailer and I wasn't repulsed or anything. I wasn't amazed, but I was I don't know, I might check this one out. In the end, though, yeah, I really did enjoy it. Luckily, the things that drew me into it, it wasn't a disappointment. I did like the movie in the end. There definitely were a few annoying cliches, and there might be a few spoilers in this review, but I'll do my best to not say everything. Just enough to kind of get people intrigued into checking it out for themselves, maybe. But before I go further with this review, I just want to mention that I didn't realize this at the time of recording, but when I was looking up images to use for this review, I noticed that this is actually based on a book series. Never heard of it, to be honest, but then again, what DreamWorks movies aren't made from book series? So this movie is, it's first glance you think, okay, this is going to be another Megamind or Despicable Me. It's a kid-friendly movie about bad guys. You know how it's going to go. It's they're evil masterminds, and something puts them in a weakness, and all of a sudden they decide they don't want to be the bad guy anymore. And so yeah, it does have a bit of that in it, but the way it handles it is very different. There's just a lot of artistry and well execution in this movie of how it tackles its story. This movie does have a few twists, and a lot of them are very predictable, but I at least like how they piled onto one twist after another. So at first, right when you see a certain character, you're like, that's the villain, isn't it? And then it's yeah, they try making a big reveal. Oh, that character was the villain all along, but in the end, it's that really is a minor point in the movie. So luckily it wasn't building up to just that. There's more to the movie than just that, luckily. So yeah, there's a lot of things that you can easily predict, but there were a few turns in this movie where it's okay, I'll admit I did not see that coming. And so it keeps you guessing during a few scenes. But overall, it's a pretty safe movie, though. So, if you're a parent who's afraid to show their kids this movie because you're afraid, oh, it stars villains, is this going to be a bad influence on them? It's one of those movies where, in the end, the bad guys do reform, they own up to their mistakes, and they handled it pretty well, surprisingly. Usually, a lot of movies like this would usually have it where, in the end, the bad guys, they do something, and all of a sudden, everyone forgives them for what they do. And they took a pretty bold direction in how they handled it here. The movie stars a cast of characters who are animals, and I like how they chose to base them on animals that people actually have basically a fear of, a paranoia of. And so you got the main character being Wolf, And unfortunately, I'm not familiar with a lot of the voice actors in this movie. So you got the wolf. He's like the big leader of the pack, and so he's basically the one you have to thank for trying to reform the entire group. Because we see like how they're like causing heists at the beginning. They're like pretty good at it, although not perfect at it. And you see how he has like a few friends. So like his best friend is a character named Snake. He's basically like the one who knows how to crack safes. And then you have Tarantula, who's like voiced by Aquafina, and she's like the hacker. She's a little spider, and I liked her. I thought she was a fun character. It's so cool to see like a little spider like using a computer and being like a whiz at hacking and stuff. I thought that was pretty funny. And then you got the shark, voiced by Craig Robinson, and he was a pretty funny character. He's like the big muscle of the team, but kind of a softy deep down. And then you have Piranha, who was probably my least favorite. Like, there's a joke about him where, like, when he lies, he passes gas. And thank God they only used that joke 3 times and it went by quickly, because that would have been annoying if throughout the entire movie he kept farting. And so, yeah, it's a DreamWorks movie for family members, so there's going to be some toilet humor here and there. But honestly, I've seen worse, but it doesn't help that they showed that, like, toward the beginning of the movie. It's like, oh, no, don't tell me this is going to be the whole movie. And luckily it wasn't, but the characters worked off each other pretty well. You could tell, like, how despite how they're bad people, they really do care about each other, even though they don't do a good job at conveying it at all times. And so, they all of a sudden hear about, like, this big heist that's, well, not heist, but they hear about this big celebration that's going on, where they're gonna give out, like, this award, kind of like a humanitarian award, and they're going to give it to, like, this guinea pig character who, like, claimed to be, like, a real big help to the town. Like, he saved them from, like, a giant meteor attack. And so right away when I saw that guinea pig, I'm like, that's the villain, isn't it? You know, it's like one of those characters, like, try being so good and polite, but it's like deep down, they're a lying, conniving weasel. And yeah, not big surprise, he was the main villain of the movie. There is a bit more to it than that, though, but, and then another character they have is, a pretty interesting character. Her name was Diane. She was, like, this fox character. She was the governor, so, like, she is the one who was hosting the event, and she was, basically hoping to have it, like, be a setup to capture the bad guys. So, like, she was taunting them on TV, basically, trying to encourage them to show up and try to hijack the event. And so, in the end, while they come very close to winning, something overcomes with Wolf. Like, he accidentally ends up saving an old lady from falling down the steps. He was going to steal her purse at first, but then when she starts falling, he does the right thing, gives her purse back, and she thanks him and calls him a good boy, and all of a sudden that makes him feel good about himself. He starts wagging his tail like a dog, and he doesn't know how to explain it. So, I do like how this movie kind of tackled that. It, like, without having to flat out spell it out for you, you can tell right from the beginning that the animals are only behaving the way they do because people are afraid of them. People don't give them a chance to be good. So, like, right at the beginning, you see the two, they're, like, the wolf and the snake, you see them sitting at a dinner table just having small talk. They're going to go on a bank heist right afterwards, but it's like they're not bugging anyone, though. They're just sitting there, and all of a sudden you see, like, people cowering in fear. They didn't even do anything. They don't have, like, guns or anything, but people are afraid of them. And they're even kind enough to pay for their meal. It's like right when they're leaving, it's like the wolf, like, he has, like, the money, and he's asking, like, if anyone's going to take it. And so you think, like, he's just taunting them, like he's actually going to steal from, like, the tip jar or something. No, he legit, like, puts money down and pays for his meal. And but then right after, they walk across the street and rob the bank, and they do nothing to get it. Everyone's so afraid of them that they're able to get away with it. And so it's like, I kind of did get a laugh out of that, but then the more you watch the movie, you realize, like, oh, that wasn't just to be made funny. It was also to be a little, kind of make you feel sympathetic for these characters. You realize that, yeah, they literally have to do nothing and people are afraid of them. And so, with this wolf character, with, like, him saving an old lady and her calling him a good boy, it's probably, like, the first time someone's ever said something nice to him, and so, he just doesn't know how to explain it, but it feels good. And so you'll see how this haunts the character throughout the movie. It's like he keeps wanting to try to impress his friends, because, they're bad, and he wants to be bad just like them, but all of a sudden, their leader's basically going soft. And so it's like he's trying to appease both ends. He's trying to make them feel like he still wants to do bad, but deep down, he really wants to change. And Not to mention how he starts falling in love with Diane, and she's a character who actually starts believing in him. It's like she thinks he's a joke at first, but then when she sees, eventually she starts believing he really is trying to change, and you find out that the two of them have a lot in common, actually. Like, I like the implication that they imply that Diane used to have, like, a dark past as well. It's implied that she knows how to steal as well, and I'd say Wolf and Diane were my favorite part of this movie. Like, the scenes where they were on screen were really good. They had great chemistry with each other, and usually in a movie when they have like a romantic interest, usually it starts off with them butting heads throughout, and then all of a sudden, oh, they start liking each other, then, oh, you lied to me! And then all of a sudden they hate each other, and then all of a sudden they get back together in the end. It's like, you've seen this shit done before, and so, luckily this movie does not do that, with them at least. It's like they warm up to each other very fast, and even when like a big misunderstanding occurs, they don't give up on each other instantly. I wish the same could be said about the main characters, the actual bad guys, because, of course, there's going to be a part where, like, something big happens between them, and there's the whole big split-up act, but I like how they went a little further with it, though. I'll get to that later. There are some minor spoilers there, but... So, anyways, after, like, the characters get caught for trying to steal the trophy for that humanitarian award or whatever, the guinea pig, comes up with the idea to try to have, the animals reformed. He's gonna take them into his wing and try to reform them to be good citizens, and so Diane begrudgingly agrees, and meanwhile, there's, like, a police officer who's, like, always on their tail. She's, like, this hot-headed, police officer, and so every time she catches them, it's funny how, like, all of a sudden, like, there's an something that interrupts where she's forced to let them go, and I did get a laugh at finding out who voiced her. So, at first I was thinking, is that Amy Sedaris or something? It kind of sounds like her, but then during the credits, it said Alex Borstein, and it's like, oh, the voice of Lois Griffin! I did not see that coming, and so that did kind of give me a big laugh. Like, I was not expecting her to be in this movie, or playing that character, for that matter. And so she was kind of a funny character. It's like she doesn't have like a big importance in the movie, but she was, she still added to it of just how over the top she was. And speaking of which, like, not only is the voice acting really good in this movie, but the animation, I mean, everyone's already praised it, but it's really snappy, really cartoony, and the action scenes definitely is like the action scenes really highlight how great the animation is. And like, just the eyes on the character, like, I don't know if they were hand-drawn, but they definitely look hand-drawn. It's like the rest of the characters look computer animated, but then they have, like, these cartoony eyeballs with, like, the thick outlines, and how they can rapidly change from, like, big, shiny pupils, like, tiny, and, like, I was complaining how, movies like, Turning Red, I thought the animation got really distracting because it was just constantly in your face, and I feel like Bad Guys did a much better job with it. It held back on the animation, so when it does have these over-the-top facial expressions, they felt more deserved because they aren't burning it into the ground. And so, anyways, the guinea pig character, he decides to take them under his wing, and he's trying to teach them how to be better, but then meanwhile, like, they're failing at every test they get to the point where they say the only thing they're good at is being bad. And then, so all of a sudden, like, when he hears that, he decides that he does have a job for them. So he has them sneak into, like, some science laboratory to break out these guinea pigs. He says, like, they're being used against their will, and he wants them to free them. So he wants them to do a heist for a good cause. And so right when that scene happened, I knew right away, yeah, this guy's definitely the villain. He has some ulterior motive. Why, like, you could argue, like, okay, he just wants to free the guinea pigs because he himself is a guinea pig, but you notice these guinea pigs are not anthropomorphic. They're actual animals. Like, they have, like, the big beady eyes. They can't speak English, and so you're wondering, what's he up to? Why does he need to free them? And it does play a bigger part in the movie down the line, but... So, anyways, they manage to free them, but get caught in the process. So, Wolf, like, he has a talk with Diane. She kind of encourages him to try to better himself, not for others, but for himself. And, she mentions how, like, foxes have a lot in common with wolves. So, it kind of makes him realize that she must have had a past like him, and she managed to better herself. And that does play a bigger role in the movie down the line. And so, eventually, like, he thinks about it, and he ends up trying to save a cat that's stuck in a tree. He actually succeeds, and all of a sudden, like, the guinea pig was able to record that and post it online, and everyone was flattered by that. They thought it was amazing how this former villain managed to sympathize with a little cat stuck in a tree. And So all of a sudden, the bad guys, people are starting to believe that they've actually changed. And so, of course, as an audience viewer, I was thinking, that was a little too easy. It's like the audience knew the wolf did better, but do they really believe the others have changed? We saw them go through nothing. And so, luckily, the movie does play an important role into that. So, if you think the movie feels rushed, it does actually pay off in the end. Oh yeah, and so there's like this big MacGuffin in the movie, like how I mentioned how earlier in the movie, the guinea pig, like they claimed he saved the town from a giant meteor, and the meteor happened to be shaped like a heart, and so people see it as like a symbol of like people coming together and all that, and you see how throughout the movie the hamster seems to be really fascinated by it, and so eventually I started picking up that, yeah, this guy's trying to steal that meteor, isn't he? And yes, that's exactly what happens. So the whole reason he takes in the bad guys is to try to fool people into thinking they've changed, so at last minute he can backstab them and make it look like, oh, bad guys can never change. And so that way they'll get taken away when he actually got away with stealing the meteor. And so that's exactly what happens, but there is a little bit more to it. So, it's like before that happens, though, you see how all of a sudden everyone loves the bad guys. They're like celebrating and dancing at a party with others. They're finally being accepted. Diane even gets to dance with Wolf, and it's like, yeah, that part was really fun. However, the bad guys, they were still planning on stealing that meteor, and Wolf is tricking them into thinking that they're still going to do it. But at last minute, he decides to not go through with the plan. Diane really got to him, and he decides he likes being a good guy. So right when they're waiting for him to pull a switch to turn out the light so they can get away, they don't. And so, of course, the guys are mad that he bailed on the plan. But anyways, regardless, the lights still went off, and all of a sudden the meteor's missing, and everyone thinks the bad guys did it. And so Wolf tries explaining himself to Diane, but he was able to give her a note that had something written on it, but not long before he had to tail it, basically. And so after they get arrested, they start slowly turning on each other, mainly towards Wolf, because they feel like he betrayed them. And so meanwhile, we see Diane. She follows the note that Wolf gave her, and it was actually he like when he gave it to her, he mentioned I'm giving everything back. And so she didn't know what he meant by that. But then she followed the address on the note he gave her, and all of a sudden she realizes that he led her to their hideout. So all their stolen goods. So when he said he's taking everything back, he meant he's returning everything he stole. So that got her to realize that something fishy's going on. She suddenly believes he didn't actually steal the meteor. It was someone else. And so eventually, like, this ninja character breaks them out, and I knew right away who it was going to be. It turned out it was Diane. And so it's revealed that Diane was a former villain, like one of the best of the kind. And I kind of wish they did go into that a little further, though, because the beginning of the movie, they did mention how there were a lot of villains who tried stealing, like, that humanitarian trophy, and every time they did, the villains never came back. And so she was like the last villain to actually try stealing that. And she was so close to stealing it, but she, as she was doing it, she took a long, hard look at a reflection on like the metallic walls in the building. And she looked at herself, and she realized that if she pulls this off, she's just going to prove that everyone was right about her. That, a fox is just a sneaky, conniving thief, basically. And so she decides she can't live like that, and so she ends up bailing on stealing the trophy, and she's been in hiding ever since. And she managed to trick her way into becoming a governor and all that. And so yeah, I thought like Diane was a great character. I mean, you knew there was something about her where it's like right when you see her like reveal that she actually does have skills in thievery, it's like you knew that she must have had a life of crime back then. And so her and Wolf decide to team up to try to take down the guinea pig, because I forgot to mention how the guinea pig basically revealed himself to the bad guys, like after they got caught. He went into the police car to have a word with them, so it almost seems like, oh, is he going to try bailing them out again? And then it's like, of course, he's going to turn on them and reveal that he was the mastermind after all. So it reveals like he was the old lady who like tried talking Wolf into being a good boy to begin with. So I'll admit I did not see that coming. And so you see how he was responsible for sabotaging a lot of things, and it suddenly adds up that, oh, he was after that meteor all along. He was just pretending to reform the bad guys so they could get away. Well, so he could get away and they could take the blame for his crime. But there's still more to that, though. You still have to wonder, what does he want with the meteorite? And apparently it has some kind of power. and he's able to create like a device that will allow him to mind wash all the guinea pigs he's stolen, or so-called freed, I guess, but in the end he basically just stole them. And so all of a sudden he's controlling all these guinea pigs to basically take back from all the charities. So, you know, he claims like throughout the movie he's doing like all these good acts for charity, and he's going to give it to like children's hospitals or schools, and in the end he's trying to steal it back and trying to leave no trace behind. I don't know, though. For a guinea pig, that wasn't a very smart plan, trying to have your guinea pigs be literal guinea pigs. It's like, don't you think people would eventually find that connection? But, so anyways, knowing the truth, Diane and Wolf decide to team up to try to take him down, but the bad guys feel betrayed still, and they decide to go separate ways. And I think that's the furthest I'll go with it. You know, I've already spoiled quite a bit, so I'm not going to give out, like, the big spoiler. All I can say is that eventually all the characters come back together except for one. One of them decides to join the guinea pig character. There's a little more to that, though, but I'll say, like, that was the biggest surprise of this movie, because, like I said, this movie had a lot of very predictable twists, and so I wasn't thinking they were actually going to go that far as to have one of them betray everyone, you know, and so, yeah, that was kind of a shock. But I like the payoff of it, though. Like, what it leads to was pretty good, so I'm not going to spoil that, but... So there's a lot of predictable things in this movie. Like, you think that ever since they joined Diane, they're all of a sudden going to turn good, but then it's like at last minute they do something different, and what it leads to was actually, it's like, it's questionable at first, like you're thinking, why are you doing this? This is stupid, but then what it leads to, it was more forgivable. So, in the end, though, Bad Guys, well, it seemed like a really generic movie, and in a way it kind of is. I still found it very enjoyable, though. Although a lot of its twists were predictable, they did have a few that actually did lead to something good, and it was still a fun movie. Very colorful, very energetic, very adrenaline-filled. My biggest complaint was probably the toilet humor, a few scenes, but luckily it's not throughout. I mean, Dreamworks has definitely made more embarrassing movies, so... I saw this movie was reviewing well, and while I wouldn't say it's amazing, I still enjoyed it, though. Like, probably a 7 out of 10 for me. I'd definitely recommend it. And I think that's all I have to say for now. So thank you for watching. See you next time, and have a great day.